no. And let me backtrack a little bit. Like, do you think, like, the Cleveland Browns look pretty good right now? Do you think they would trade teams with the Baltimore Ravens if they could? I think they would. Do you think they would trade fortunes with the Baltimore Ravens over the last, since the Browns relocated and changed their name? I think they would. And the difference was Ozzie Newsome, who was a multiple-time All-Pro player and a first-round draft pick and everything, and moved with the team to Baltimore, became the first African-American GM in the history of the NFL, and was responsible for some great Baltimore Ravens teams, and basically with his last act as GM, while many were saying, hey, Lamar Jackson should be a wideout or change positions, he said, no. I'm going to use a first-round pick on that dude. He's going to be the quarterback. And rather than trying to fit a round peg in a square hole, right, he was like, no, we're going to take this guy, and we're going to build a team around him. He can do some things no one else can do. So did Ozzie Newsome construct a team where it's really hard to replace the quarterback, where the risk of if something happens to Lamar Jackson, it's more difficult to kind of keep your head above water with another guy because he can do things no one else can do? Yes, he did. And that's a risk, sure. It's harder to find a backup quarterback for this team. But in terms of the actual play on the field, are they too reliant? No, they run, but Orlovsky breaks this down all the time. They run these 3 tight end sets. They have an offense that works. It's come up short in the playoffs, and it's come up short against Kansas City. And I think those are in those highest profile games, 2 in the playoffs, 3 against Kansas City. They're 0-5. I think that has to do with, frankly, coaching, execution, and Lamar Jackson. I think all 3 of those things have to get better when it matters most for this team. But that's not the same thing as saying they're too reliant on this generationally unique and talented player. Stephen A., they've constructed the team around taking advantage of what he can do. Make that mistake. They did it the right way.
Well, forcing him to be something he's not would be a problem. But asking him to elevate his level of play is not a problem. The reality of the situation is you've got him sitting out the last couple of practices because of a knee injury. The Baltimore Ravens have the number 3 rushing attack in football. We know why that is. It's because of Lamar Jackson. That's why they were number 1 last year. He's not only their leading rusher in yards, he's their leading rusher in attempts, averaging nearly 4 a game. You got Mark Ingram in the backfield averaging 4.4 yards a carry. Why not give him the damn football more? Why is he averaging less carries as a running back out of the backfield than Lamar Jackson? That's the kind of thing that you should be concerned about. We're looking at a Willie Snead. We're looking at a Hollywood Brown. We're looking at a Mark Andrews and guys like that, Miles Boykin and stuff like that. These are not all-world receivers, even though Mark Andrews is pretty damn good as a tight end. The bottom line is when you look at the Baltimore Ravens, okay, we've got question marks about the amount of weapons that Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh have available to them because we haven't seen much from them, at least compared to what we had hoped. And primarily, that's because you've got this kid running the football. Obviously, he's an electrifying talent, and you want to utilize that to your advantage. You want to create panic by opposing defenses because of this dude's elusivity and his ability to run with the football. But in the same breath, you want to protect him. Why? Because a backup on your squad was somebody that was considered potentially electrifying. He was number 2 in the draft behind Andrew Luck. I'm talking about RG3, Robert Griffin III. And when did his career take a turn for the worse? When he damn near had his leg amputated by Haloti Ngata. In a regular season game against the Baltimore Ravens. And so
talk coach into leaving him in. Yep.
Say what?
In the playoffs.
You interrupted. I didn't understand you. What'd you say?
I'm saying, like, part of RG3's problem is he was such a gamer, he talked coach into letting him play when he really shouldn't have been playing.
Well, that's part of the problem, but where it really started was that hit by Haloti Ngata. And that's all I'm saying is that was with him running the football. And so as a result, once he sustained that injury, then he tried to go to Mike Shanahan and tell him what he wanted to do, and then obviously everything went awry. The point is that even though you're electrifying running the football, in this NFL, particularly when you're relatively undersized, it could be hazardous to your health. And so when I look at the Ravens, do I think they're too dependent on Lamar Jackson? Yes, because even though you know what he can do and you want him to do it, I think you could be asking him to do that a little bit too much and not utilizing the other weapons around you, which could ultimately jeopardize him. And that's where I'm coming from. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus.